we have to create the right vibe, the energy, and everybody at the organization has to feel so privileged to be here. It's no other way.
Thanks for listening to the Purely Arsenal podcast. Please follow us on Twitter at PurelyArsenalFP for all the latest Arsenal podcasts.
Welcome to the sit down at the Purely Arsenal podcast, post-match edition, reviewing the 4-0 pumping at Anfield that we're pretty much perfected these kind of bashings. Neil Shah's with me. How you doing, Neil?
And they say that we don't record after a loss. See?
Unbelievable. Some of these fan base,
That's
I tell you.
disgusting.
Got to stick with us since 2015. We've done it at least 2 or 3 times. Also got Michael Harris with me, looking suave. How you doing, Mike?
How you doing, Jack? How you doing, Neil? Good to see you two again. And just a shame it isn't under better circumstances, but I'm sure we'll find some positive little gems along the way.
Yeah, well, let's try to start with that then. I don't think Neil hates lineup questions. James obviously isn't here with some family stuff going on. Hopefully he'll be able to come back on the next one. And one day we'll get all 4 of us on a podcast again, which has been the hardest thing this season because everyone's pretty busy and it's my time frames that throw it. But Mike, what do you think of the lineup? He went with the left back was the biggest one talking point before the game. Was there anything else that you were... in hindsight, I should have done different or anything like that? Obviously, looking at the Tavares incident, you might think that, but what were your thoughts on it initially?
I think talking before on the group, we were talking about possibly, obviously, Tierney coming back in, and actually, I was probably on the looking at maybe having Tierney in and Tavares in as well to play further forward to engage Alexander-Arnold a bit more. Pushing back a little bit, but whether that would have been switching to a back 3, which he really hasn't done since he's got that defence that he wants back there. But I think Tavares did really well. I think in the first half he did physically he matched up with Salah. In the times when he did get into contact with Alexander-Arnold, he did well. Everyone's just looking at that moment where he gave the ball away and he went to pieces, and everyone just remembers that as the last thing, and that's the highlight of his performance. I don't think it was. I think the guy did really well, considering where he's thrown in and how far he's come along. As a 20-year-old kid. I'm glad he went with the team he did. The only issue I would have maybe had is maybe having another body in the midfield, and it would have been hard to drop Lacazette because he's been such an integral part in the upturn. But I think maybe in that situation, you maybe need someone who's going to maybe get the ball and maybe slow it down a little bit more, and that's what Odegaard does. He has the ability to press as well, and a bit more on a longer tangent than Lacazette can as well, because we know Lacazette sort of runs out of gas after an hour 70 minutes. So maybe, again, in hindsight, having someone like Odegaard who would have been able to drop in to make a 3 in up midfield and just to match them up. Because I think Lokonga, again, I think looking back I watched the first half again, and it's interesting when you watch the game again in the cold light of day. And Lokonga played well as well, but everyone you see on the feedback, he was crap, Tavares was crap, and they weren't. They had a couple of little brain farts, Lokonga in the second half. And, I think he did really well. He definitely made more of an impression in the game than Partey did, who, if you looked at those two and said, who's the more experienced player, who's the one that we just spent 50 million on, we would have definitely said it was Lokonga. So, I would have had an extra body in midfield, and I would have went with maybe Kieran Tierney, but hindsight obviously is a wonderful thing. But no, for half an hour we were in the game. We gave a good account of ourselves, and obviously once the situation happened on the sideline, all the energy went up. I mean, we know what it's like playing Liverpool, and the best of times. But playing Liverpool at night, there's something about that place when you go there at night, and when their fans get up on their toes, it's a different. It properly transmits to their players. And occasionally it happens with us. We've seen it happen with ourselves when we played at Highbury, when there was a decision that went against us. We just, the fans and the players united. It's happened a couple of times at the Emirates, to be fair, where something's happened and there's this synergy where you feel hard done by it, and then we link, and they do it more often than not. So no, the lineup, I would have wanted those two changes, but no, I'll let Neil come in now.
Yeah, no, great points, and you can hear me, right? I'm not on mute. Great points on the night thing. I didn't even think of that. Like the night. You're right as well. I've been to a couple of night games at Anfield, and I've always thought the atmosphere has been, somewhat subdued when I've been there. But it just takes a moment, or to raise it. And we'll get to the Arteta incident. But I agree with you on Tavares. Agree with you on Lokonga. I think you make really good points on those, because I think, unfortunately, the lasting thought from a lot of fans is going to be, that sort of first 5 minutes of the second half for both of them, and obviously where Tavares gives the ball away, and Lokonga has those moments where he gave the ball away like 3 or 4 times in a minute, didn't he? It was crazy, but overall, they were a big part of what was good in the first half with us. I don't think we can forget that, and we've also, like you said, you've got to remember their age, and we bought young, so we have to expect these kind of moments to happen, right? And like you said, hindsight's a wonderful thing. Yeah, what are some of the positives? I mean, a lot of people talking about some of the positives that we can take. A lot of people saying this was a yardstick. Some people saying it was a free hit. Where did you stand on? Because we didn't do a preview pod. And where did you stand on your thoughts going into the game, and any positives that you can take away from it, and especially probably from the first half, I'd expect?
Well, ironically, the positive I took away from it, that he actually stuck with the same team. I'm basically a stickler for not changing something that isn't broken. And while now looking at it, you could have said, yeah, maybe Tina would have been a better option against Liverpool, possibly Niles. But if it hadn't worked, then we would have said, why did we stick with the same team? So it's a very difficult one for the boss to judge, really. I think he did the right thing. I think why change it if it's worked for 10 games, which certainly improved after the disastrous start to the season we had. And it would have made no sense to mess around and experiment. I think, and to be fair, I didn't think we did too badly up to the first goal. As Michael alluded to, I don't think we played badly at all. I thought we were still playing with the same kind of zest, especially in defence, as we had been, to keep all those clean sheets. I didn't think there'd been much change. And it's difficult against Liverpool. How many times have we said it when we play against the team when we win? And the media says, well, the other team played rubbish. And we say, well, no, we made them look rubbish. Well, Liverpool maybe made us look rubbish after that first goal. I think that the critics are quite hard. Yes, we've made some serious errors. And I think it's a massive learning curve. And while I think maybe the only thing I would have maybe done differently is after the mistake that Tavares made, maybe then we should have brought Tierney on, possibly, just to protect him a little bit, because it might have been a step too far just to keep him going. But I didn't really have any issues with the lineup at all. The positives, I'm going to talk about is Ramsey. I mean, it's crazy to think that you lose a game 4-0 and the man of the match arguably is the goalkeeper. Because if it wasn't for him, it would have been 7 or 8 easily. It really would have been quite embarrassing. 4-0 is pretty embarrassing, but it could have been so much worse. The stops that man can produce, against all the top forwards that Liverpool have, it's just incredible. Against Mane, against Salah, against Jota, just flexibility, anticipation, speed, reflex, everything. He's got the lot. And I just think, even at 1-0, I mean, it's never a good time to concede a goal, but it's always bad just before the first half when it's about to end. But, I think we were still in it at that time, and it was mainly because of Ramsdale's heroics. And I think that second goal was just a sucker punch. After that was it. It was no way back, and it was going to be always difficult at Anfield, and especially as you guys talked about the electricity of the crowd, and there being the 12th man, it would have been an impossible task. But I think even up to 1-0, there was still a chance. I think we had a small time frame just after that first goal, maybe leading into the second half, where we weren't doing too bad. I mean, there were some chances. We had that offside goal ruled for offside, didn't we? I think that was in the first half. I can't remember too well, but we had chances, but we just didn't create enough. That's the old going back to the problems we had at the beginning of the season. We weren't creating enough. We haven't scored enough goals from open play. Most of our goals have been from set pieces. But I think this is all part of the building process from the defence going forward, and hopefully he'll start trying to make it all come together. But Liverpool, I think, was a good example of how far we've still got to go. You know, we've had a good run, and I think they've taught us a good lesson. The trick is we learn from it. If we don't learn from it and we capitulate now for the next 3 or 4 games, then we have to start asking questions again. If we can learn from it and bounce back and maybe go on another run, who knows? But Ramsdale for me was massively positive.
Yeah, Ramsdale. I mean, he's been fantastic all season, hasn't he? Really, I mean, just looks amazing, I think. And he probably feels he could have done a little bit better for the first goal, ironically. But he saved us so much. You know, the double save from Salah, I think it was, another one from Mane, which was almost basically a double saver, I think. And then a lot more the one from Jota, where he was going one way and he saved it going the other. Unbelievable one-handed save again. So that's a positive. I thought Gabriel was another positive. I thought he was our best defender. I thought Tomiyasu as well, first half was very good. I thought he handled Mane really well until the goal, frustratingly, and we'll get to Mane when we get to the Arteta Klopp incident. The thing with it is, a lot of people saying this is sort of a comparison to other games that we've had. We have had moments where we've been in the game at Anfield and still been kind of bashed in the end. I mean, we went 1-0 up, I think, last season, then lost 3-1. But they played a lot better, I felt, in that game last season. Like Klopp, if you remember, that was the game that Klopp came out and said that I think that's the best we've played all season. He basically said that. I mean, they were unbelievable. I don't know if they were unbelievable in this game as such, but they definitely, their press is just suffocating. I mean, it's just unreal how much more energy they seem to have. Like, we just seem to move in slow motion when we go to Anfield in comparison to them. It's unbelievable, isn't it, really? And my concern with this one is they didn't really have a full strength team out. You know, they Robertson was out, Henderson was on the bench, Firmino was out, so it wasn't like they had a full team out. I don't know, am I being too I feel even if we're going to lose when we go there, I feel we should show a little bit more. And even though those first 40 minutes were quite encouraging in terms of the fight we put up, I felt we didn't really have an outlet. We didn't really hurt them to the point where it was going to concern them to push back. So suddenly they just creep forward and forward and forward. We should be showing a little bit more, you think?
Yes, I think when you play against teams that are good, like, against the Liverpools, against your Cities, Chelseas, whatever, you're going to have periods where obviously you're going to defend. You have to be in that situation. You've got to defend, you've got to be resolute, and we did that to a certain extent. But there's going to be times when you break and you're having a chance, and you've got to have not just what we were having. We were just having one-off breaks, and the ball was played down the side, or it's crossing, it's blocked, and that was it. There wasn't any sustained pressure. It wasn't like a 5 minutes of where we were popping it around. Like we did with Arsenal, with Arsenal Wenger. How many times we see under Wenger where we just have the team under pressure for 5 minutes, and they were kicking it out for throw-ins, they were kicking it out for corners, the last ditch stuff, and then bang, we'll stretch them, we'll overload on one side, and then we score. There was never a situation like that. It was either a cross was swung in, it was cleared, and then it was Liverpool just sort of dictating and controlling things again. And that's the worry with this style of play that we've got. It doesn't. We're not conducive to have any sustained bit of pressure. It just seems to be like little moments, drills, a pattern of play off a training ground, try and replicate it onto the pitch, play out from the back. And if it doesn't work, if you don't expose a gap after the fifth pass, go back again, go back and start it all over again. And you've got sustained pressure, but it's in your back four. It's at the back. It's not in the final third where you're keeping possession. It's all at the back. It's going to Ben White. He's going across the round there. And if you were to put the time that we spent on the ball possession, it was all in the last third, in our own third. It wasn't in midfield, because in midfield was the only person in midfield who was doing anything was Lokonga. It wasn't up front because it was just flash passes to Saka or Smith Rowe, who done a lovely, obviously, reverse little pass skill, which he did to Aubameyang, which was offside, obviously, as Neil said. But all the time that we spent, sustained possession, was all right at the back, and you can't, what are you going to do with that? You're not going to do anything. And for me, sorry, Gabriel, as you said, was our best defender. I don't know what happened to Ben White, because there were lots of times in the first half where he could have switched it out to the left and he didn't do it. He was just hoofing it up. So whether the game got to him, I don't know. But there was a lot of situations where you could see Lacazette, Tavares were calling for it, saying go out wide, and he just wasn't doing it, which was unlike him, because you know what he's capable of. Yeah, it was a strange one. But I think that is the worry going forward. The style of play, the philosophy, it has to change somewhere, and I can't really see it. We've improved after the 3 games. People have compared us to everyone else. We're third in this number. We're fifth in that one compared to where we were. But yeah, something has to change, and I think that has to be maybe the introduction of someone else up there, someone who can maybe hold the ball a bit longer and have those sustained moments of possession in the midfield into the opposition's last third, because we it didn't happen on Saturday night. It didn't happen at all.
Now, when I watch these games, I always find I come away with being more frustrated with the experienced players. I find I'm much more frustrated with the Aubameyangs, the Lacazettes, the Parties, the Xhakas, if they're playing, used to be the Lenos, the ones that should know better and should really be guiding these youngsters in the tough moments. You're 1-0 down away at one of the toughest places to go in Europe, to be honest, at the moment. I mean, they're unreal at home, aren't they? I know they had a difficult result against Brighton, but when they want to be, they turn it on like nobody else at home with that stadium, like you said, night games, stuff like that. And I just look to the experienced players. I'm not sure it's really worthwhile playing Aubameyang if we're going to play like this. I mean, if we're going to play like this, where we're going to have 30% possession of the ball, Arteta must have been very aware of his intention to and how he was going to play, because we've done this multiple times under him. You've got a guy that's he's an 18-yard box player. Otherwise, there's no real point in having him on a pitch. So if your creation is going to be so little, then you're like you said, you're better off just trying to at least match them in midfield. And their midfield wasn't their first choice midfield. Fabinho's a monster, unbelievable, like really good. But then they've got Thiago, who's been very indifferent for them, but looks great if you give him time on the ball, which we did. And Oxlade-Chamberlain, who even Liverpool fans were going, we ain't seen this before. Where's this performance come from? From Oxlade-Chamberlain. Of course he's going to show up against us, but Oxlade-Chamberlain only shows up again if you give him a lot of time on the ball. You put him under pressure. He is poor in possession if you put him under pressure, but we didn't really do that, Neil, Mike touched on, that riling up the crowd and maybe that moment on the sidelines being a factor. What was your thoughts on that moment when it happened? Obviously, supporting, us and Arteta supporting his players, of course, but what was your thoughts? Both managers lost it a little bit, but in hindsight, it seemed to work more in their favour. But what were your thoughts?
Liked it. I know you might not agree. I mean, I
did at the time. I did at the time.
I mean, I think it was centred on the fact that Mane was just basically getting away with murder, as he always does against us.
Yep.
He's a dirty little son. So yeah, great player, but he does try it on and seems to get away with it, and that's the issue. There's times so many matches gone by where he should have been sent off against us, never happened, and even this one at least should have definitely got a yellow card a lot earlier than he did. It took a lot. He had to literally kill one of our players to get a yellow card. It's ridiculous. But all right, look, I'm not trying to make excuses. That's not the reason why we lost. But I just felt that was the focal point of that potential. How can you say, firework between the two of them? And I didn't know what was going on. I was like looking at the game, and then I think I turned my head away. And the next thing I see is 2 managers coming together. I'm like, whoa! And my mum was sitting there. She goes, "Look at this!" I went, so I found it really funny. She was laughing, and I was like, "Oh God, get in, Arteta! I sort him out." So I quite liked the passion. I think that's something we really have lacked. I've always said it. There's that bit of passion, and it shows. To me, it shows that they care. There's been so many times where we've been questioning that. Do the players care? Does the manager? Well, I can't say the manager, but sometimes you don't see enough of that on the pitch. And it should be controlled. I'm not saying you do it to the extent that it's detrimental to the club or to the team or whatever it might be. But you've talked about it, Jack. Sometimes where there's a foul, there's not enough. The players aren't surrounding the ref as much as they should, maybe, without causing a problem where they might get sent off. we don't do enough of that. We don't have that vocal part of it. But that I saw from the manager, and I thought, Jesus Christ, I mean, he's normally quite cool, if you think about it. Yeah, he's very animated with his own players. And I just thought, I quite liked it. But I think, yeah, in retrospect, if you look back at it now, it worked against us completely in the sense that the crowd went mental. It somehow kind of just ignited Liverpool into going from third gear into fifth, maybe. And that was it. And then, and then after that, they were like, we were already struggling anyway with them. We were doing well defensively to keep them at bay. But after they changed gear, went up a couple of gears, that was it. Then it was inevitable. I think I said on the WhatsApp group, didn't I? It was coming. But so it backfired. Whether Arteta needs to look at himself and maybe keep the reins in next time, I don't know. At the end of the day, we're all human, Jack. It's tough at that time. Mane got away with Noni.
He did.
I get where Arteta was coming from.
He did. I mean, I was as frustrated as Arteta was, so I could see where he was coming from. And Klopp, let's be honest. I mean, I like Klopp as a coach, but he's on the sidelines. He's a nightmare. Let's be honest. He's a nightmare. He's an absolute nightmare.
I mean, the thing is that the tackle that it all kicks it off wasn't even the worst one. I think it was his third one at the time. He did 5 fouls, before he got a card. So again, it shows you how some players have a free pass before they get a yellow card. And you've got to look at Klopp as well. He's got form. He's had run-ins with Dyche. He's had run-ins with Lampard. You remember the one when there was during lockdown, you could hear Lampard chipping at him, saying, "Oh, you think you're big man now because it's such a proper game name." So Klopp has got form. He's got his Mr. Red teeth and everything. His new Hollywood teeth, and he does his little funny stuff in the press conferences, and everybody loves him and everything. But he's got the dark arts about him. He knows what he's doing. You saw when they scored, he was cupping his ears to the fans to say, "Well, I can hear you now, and it's all because of you." And that's what I said about the whole. We used to, how many times we used to watch us win a game. And it's like, don't do anything silly. Don't do a silly tackle. Don't give the opposition energy. Don't wind them up so they can try and do something and get back and score a goal. And all of a sudden, no, don't wind the away fans up. And unfortunately, we fell into that. Fair play to Arteta. He saw what Mane was doing. He was right on that side. He could see what he was doing. The thing I was really annoyed with after that was Lacazette putting his arm around Mane and he was just chatting to him for the rest of the half, and he was just trying to put his arm around him. I was like, "What? This guy's trying to take pieces out of your teammate. Why on earth are you trying to be friends with him? I don't care what you might be like in social circles off the pitch, but on the pitch, this guy's trying to hurt one of your guys, and you're there trying to talk. And that 5 minutes after it happened, they cut to him, and they're both there talking about it, and like to say, "Oh well, I didn't do anything wrong." And you think, well. That's what I don't like to see. I'm absolutely right with Neil. Arteta's right. He's backing his guys. He's seen the guy raise an elbow into his face, and luckily it wasn't the sharp part. It was like the more the forearm. But the one on Ben White was ridiculous. He's off the pitch and he's cleaned him out, and Lacazette's seen that, and he wants to have a conversation with him. But again, it's all about the whole night thing with Liverpool. I always said that if Bruce Wayne was a football fan, he'd be a Liverpool fan, because there's something about the night at that place where they just turn into, this frenzy, and they just get everything behind them. But yeah, Mane, he's what they term a shithouse, and he knows what he's doing. He plays right on the edge. At half time, he was trying to chat to either Gabriel or Ben White, I noticed. And he just blanked him, and he was trying to get in their ear again. He scored a goal, whatever, and he's still trying to get in their ear at half time when he's walking off. So, I think the way you deal with someone like Mane is the way Rob Holding dealt with him when he was at the Emirates that time, where he smashed into him and he stood over him to say, you want some of this? I could do it all game. And you could see it went to his head. He went into his shell, and because he was doing the reverse the other night, and he wasn't getting a response like that, he was getting away with it. He kept on doing it. So I'm sure, Holding was on the touchline there, watching that on the bench, thinking, "Oh, let me on," because he would have smashed into him. Because that's what he needs to do with someone like that. He needs someone to smash into him. Get a yellow card, great, but just smash into him to let him know that you're not getting away with stuff like that.
Yeah,
what he
Gabriel
did
was
against
dreaming
Costa
of him.
as well.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Gabriel was dreaming of him being over on his side, wasn't he? Because Tomiyasu, lovely player, I like him a lot, but he's an honest player, really honest player. I mean, he doesn't waste energy on that kind of stuff. You can tell he's just an honest player. He just comes across like that, and it's not in everyone, but you need those 3 or 4. And Mane's, he perfects the dark arts, doesn't he? Really, I mean, he's got previous Tierney elbow last season, got away with it somehow. And like you said, some players have passes, and when they reach this level, we had it to a certain degree. You know, when we were in 02, 03, 04, but we never had it to this degree. That was the frustration. In 02, do you remember us going there in 02 and getting a silly red card on Van Bronckhorst? It wasn't a red card. But then we used that energy to rile. We went and won the game with 10 men at Anfield. We used that energy to rile us up. And the problem I have is when moments like this seem to happen, we always seem to fall back off and fall into our shell and let the others take advantage of us, right? But I do notice a little bit of a change. I have to admit that. I like the players he's brought in. I see more of a togetherness in the team. In that first 40 minutes, I personally, where usually in the last few years when I'm at Anfield, I'm just kind of watching it, waiting for the inevitable. But in that first 40, even I was a bit more riled up. I was like, that's it, let him have it a little bit. And I felt that from the players. And you know, the likes of Ramsdale and Gabriel probably leading that. But obviously, you know, the goal, I think the goal was really poor from our perspective when we defended quite well and toughly. You know, it was a decent free kick in, but it was a silly free kick to give away. I think it was Aubameyang that gave it away, wasn't it? And then, you know, you shouldn't be letting Mane have that much space at the back post. He's 5'8". You know, like, I don't know what it is with us and giving, you know, tiny little players like Sterling, Mane, you know, etc. just free headers.
Gives me
in the
hope,
box.
Jack. Gives me hope.
It's really frustrating, isn't it? Like, if he was 6'2", I'd go, all right, fair enough. For some reason, I don't see him score a bundle of headers, but they seem to get him against Arsenal, don't they? But then let's talk a bit about our 50 million central midfielder, Neil, in Thomas Partey. Now, are you of the mindset that he just needs a run in the team where he stays fit? He's got a bit of the Ramses about him at the moment. You know, it's like he's in and out, and he can't be in the team long enough to see him fully thrive. Though he does always seem to be better when he's been in the team for about a month, if I'm right in saying that. Are you just waiting for that, or should we be expecting more, Neil, from a 28-year-old previous La Liga winner? I think he's won maybe the Europa League as well, Champions League finalist, I think, as well. Should we be expecting more from Thomas Partey? I mean, we bought him to be a bit more than that, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. I think so. I think we should be seeing it now. When he's good, he's brilliant, isn't he? He's superb. And then, as you said, he can be hot and cold. He can be really bad, or he can be excellent. There's kind of no in between with him. I don't know what it is, but certainly his experience. He's a strong guy, and he knows what he needs to do. He knows his role, surely. And I don't know if it's another one of these where the price tag's affected him. I don't know. He shouldn't do. He should just not worry about things like that. He should be professional, rise above it. Is it to do with how Arteta's playing him? But I just don't know what it is with him. I wish, when he came along, do you remember how happy I was when we signed him? I thought, God, that's it. We've got our new Vieira. And that's the problem. We still don't seem to have found that missing link. And I'm still hopeful that Partey is the answer, but I'm not sure because he's too indifferent. He's like, he can be great, he can be rubbish, he can be mediocre, but we haven't seen consistency from him. And that's what we need. Because if we see it from him, like it is with how Gabriel is playing, how Ramsey's playing, it can be so infectious for some of the other players. And what you said earlier, Jack, about when we fail, it's the larger, the more senior, the more established players that you need to look at, and they're the ones that should be carrying the lantern or carrying the torch. But it always seems to be our younger players that are showing us the way, or showing the rest of the team the way. And he's got to be one of those in the senior level, really. But I don't know what the answer is. I don't know whether it's to do with he missed the games and he went on the international break, and so that broke up his run, I suppose. But is that an excuse? I don't think so. You know, you go to Anfield, as you said, it's one of the biggest clubs, especially in Europe, to play against them. You don't need geeing up for a game like that. You should be up for it straight away. It's like what Michael was touching on about Lacazette and doing the arm. I think the whole team needs to re-watch that game against Man United when, at the end, the way Keown reacted to Van Nistelrooy, how they all rallied for each other, got each other's backs. It's that kind of example that this team needs, that, we don't want to pussyfoot around anyone. This is war. When you're on that pitch, it doesn't matter if you're friends with them off the pitch. When you're on that pitch, this is war. This is purely and utterly war. And I sometimes don't see that from some of the players. And I think Partey maybe he's sometimes a little bit lackadaisical with his attitude. And I don't know what the answer is. I was hoping you'd give this one to Michael because his insight's a lot better today. He's on fire today with his Batman stroke the milk tray advert man attire. So maybe Michael will fill me in and answer it better.
What's your thoughts?
I mean, it's funny because Neil touched on the podcast. It was a live podcast we did when it was a transfer deadline day when there was 5 of us on, I think, and me, you, James, Neil, Anthony, and we confirmed. I think we did a bit of your mate Fab. We outdone him. We announced it live. We were saying at the time, this guy, he's got all the tools in the toolbox. We know what he can do, and it's annoying, because I remember seeing him play for Atletico in, I think it was a quarter-final game at Anfield, and he absolutely ran the show. He was unbelievable. He was doing all sorts, and I thought, wow, we're getting this type of player. And at Anfield, you saw him struggle, and people say it's because of the injury, but as far as I was where he played. In one of the games, I think he left early. In one of the international games for Ghana, and he was released early, possibly. I've been thinking about this. I mean, how many? I can't count on more than one hand how many good games I think I've seen Thomas Partey play, and that's not to really dig him out. That's not to say, he's a waste of money. But we all point to the one game, Man United away, and I think it's down to. What he's being asked to do and the player he has alongside him. And I think someone like Partey, I think you've just got to let him maraud and let him just do whatever and play almost a little bit higher up, a little bit further forward, because I think when we played against United, I think we played 3 at the back. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think we played 3 at the back. And he had El Neni next to him. And I think because he had El Neni next to him and he knew El Neni, we know what El Neni's like. He's more defensive minded. He plays backwards or sideways. He goes, plays forward, he gets the fine or something like that. He must do. That's the only thing I think he reason the guy doesn't play a forward pass. But he had El Neni next to him. And I think that now allowed Partey to play a bit off the cuff. He was making runs. He was running with the ball. He was breaking the lines. He was threading balls through. He had an outstanding performance. And I think there's been occasions where we see Arteta play him as the deep lying, the defensive midfielder. It was against Villarreal away in the Europa League semi-final. He played him. I think the second leg he played him as I don't think that's where you're going to get the best out of him. I think this guy you need to let him off the leash. You need to let him pick up the ball and also float around and disrupt, win tackles. And because that's what he's good at. I think when he's restricted a bit, it just dulls his natural ability to play the game, and that's what we've mentioned about Arteta before. There's coaching and there's overcoaching and there's not allowing players to have the freedom to sort of not make it up as they go along, but just to be a bit more expression. And, I think you can label that as with him and other coaches where it's just a bit more robotic. You've got to do this and you have to do it this way. But I think it's a combination of where he's been asked to play and his partner, his midfield partner. Because the thing with people say, oh, yeah, well, Xhaka is a great partnership. But Xhaka, when Xhaka plays, he still has to sort of drop off a little bit because Xhaka tends to go left and cover Tierney whenever he bombs forward. So it's not like he's got someone behind him midfielder-wise. He's still the last man in that area. So I think if you had a proper deep line defensive midfielder, or you had El Neni, who, let's just say, because I don't think anyone, Maitland-Niles or Lokonga are that type of midfielder who will sit there and just want to stay there. They both want to try and play, and go around and play around the corners as well. So I think if you had someone in that ilk, let's say Gilberto, look at Vieira. Why was Vieira be able to do sort of the things he could do? Because he knew he had this guy. If he went on and he picked up the ball and decided, you know what, I'm just going to, I'm going to break this defence. I'm going to break this wall up. And he did it. Because he got the ball, he just beat people, shrugged them off, threaded it through to Henry or Perez, and the rest was history. I think if he had that person there where he could then pick up the ball and do those sort of things, I think that's when you get the best out of a party, man. At the moment, it's going to be like it is. You're going to have games where he looks okay, and you're going to have games where, he's being restricted. He's not being allowed to play the way he can bring more benefit or more success to the team. I think that's how it looks to me. Because we can't be sitting here a year and a bit after he's played and said he's had one really, really outstanding game, and that was at Old Trafford. That's not right, is it?
No, it's not. And you're right. We need the partner for him. I don't think. Xhaka's the best, probably because of his experience, etc., and his ability just to maintain his position, like you said. But we said in the summer, didn't we? We said we were going to regret not getting a central midfielder here. Because obviously Xhaka was imminently leaving, and then he signed the contract, etc. But I think we're regretting it. We will regret it. I do. Neil, go on. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I think that's how you answer that question. So well done, Michael. Saving my bacon. But I think he's spot on. I think what he said is right. But I just want to say, just in his defence, just a little bit. The run that we had, and I'm going to keep going back to it because obviously it was a lovely time to be an Arsenal fan. There were the games where he did protect the back four, and I thought he did all right in that position. I think you're right, Michael. I think he's good because he showed in that game against Liverpool, didn't he? He had that shot. Almost, it was a great save. It could have been a goal for him. It was a great shot when he moved forward, and maybe he just got fed up and thought, let me come bloody show these players how to do it. But and so he's got that. He can do that. I remember seeing Vieira do it on a few occasions. So I agree with you. But I think to his credit, he didn't do a bad job when we were playing well in that setup where he was protecting the back four. He was sitting back. And he did have some great performances there to do that. So I just wanted to just play a little bit devil's advocate and just put that in. But I agree with you, Michael. I think maybe the partner is the issue, maybe. Yeah.
And I was going to do like sort of 2 minutes before we go today on just touching on maybe if there's any possibility of doing anything in January. I think it's very unlikely, but well, you got to hope, haven't you? You got to hope. So, but yeah, I agree. I think the partner is, and we spoke earlier in the season about Lokonga looks very much like a sort of replacement for Partey when he's injured. His style, his the way he likes to be, lots of touches on the ball, likes to kind of progress the ball, doesn't, like you said, maintain his position too much. So the partnership of Partey and Lokonga, I've always sort of, wondered about and questioned a little bit. I almost think if Xhaka isn't there, you might as well chuck El Neni in, especially in these sort of games where you're going to spend a lot of the time without the ball. You need that discipline there, right? And I felt a little bit frustrated with Partey on the second goal. Obviously, huge error by Tavares, but if you watch where Partey is, I'm not sure he could stop Jota, but he could certainly do more to kind of, push Jota away a little bit, put pressure under him, make it harder for him at least. But obviously it's a big error from Tavares, and it'll be interesting to see what he does with Tavares and Lokonga now against Newcastle, which we'll get to. I don't want to do too much on the goals. I mean, I tell you what I do want to ask. When we go 2-0 down, I feel like Brighton went 2-0 down, didn't they, against Liverpool and came back to 2-2. My frustration here, Neil, and I've been posting data that looks very negative towards Mikel Arteta, purposely, to be honest. But the reason I'm posting it is because I always say, and we always say on this podcast, like, let your eyes judge and then look at the data. The data backs up what I'm seeing. That's why I'm posting it. I wouldn't post it if I was just like, I want Mikel Arteta to do well, but it literally backs up everything that I'm seeing. We're 19th in shot creation this season, right? We are 19th in open play goals this season. If you count the counter-attacking goals, we're still about 17th in counter-attacking goals this season. So, in open play goals this season. So at 2-0 down, I think what you look at there is that the pressure's off at that point. No one's expecting you to get a result. So what you look at there is do you have a big enough, do we have enough faith in the style and the belief in the way we're playing. And my biggest concern every time I watch us is I'm not sure we're very good at progressing the ball. I don't think we're very good at progressing the ball at all. Like Mike said, it's far too picture perfect. It's far too trained when we do it. Like it's been taught over and over again. Nothing's natural. Everything's the extra touch. You know, everything's training ground pictures. At that point, you don't want to see the collapse. We're not going to get anything out of the game, but show us the way we play. And that was my actual biggest frustration was from 2-0 onwards. That was my biggest frustration. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Neil.
Yeah, nothing to lose. I think that's a very good observation. I think it's like when sometimes if you prepare for exams, some people revise just literally by rereading the answer over and over and over and over again, and it's just like regurgitating it from memory onto the paper. You're not actually using any creativity. You're not using anything which is a little bit out of the box, and you're not improvising, and that is what we lack. We are. He's basically getting them almost like that. I don't know. I'm not on the training ground. I don't know anything about it, but it seems to be, from what you guys say and from what I listen to you and the rest of it, it's like he's got this plan set out, and that is what we're going to do, and that is it. And after that, they can't express it. And that is what we've been saying, what Michael said earlier, what we said on previous pods. They're not given that openness to be creative, to be expressive, to be spontaneous. Nothing. It's all done like it should be done on a law book. They're the rules. That's it. You don't deviate from that. You adhere to it, and that's the problem. You see, he could have been a little bit adventurous. You're right. You could have thought it's 2-0 down. We don't want to embarrass ourselves, but we might as well give it a go and change it up a bit. You know, he had players on the bench that he could have brought on, could have changed it. You got young Martinelli, which I'm still crying for, to get more game time. Didn't see him. Bamiyang was, it's just little things like that. You could experiment with a few different players. We could have brought on Tini.
Yeah.
I said it at the top of the podcast. Yeah.
No, sorry, mate. Do you remember back in the day, or you probably remember, do you remember there used to be a book or a dot-to-dot book? Like you have a book and then you do 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way. Yeah. And if you did it this way or whatever, then you messed up the picture, innit? But it's like 1, 2, 3. And that's what it's like watching us coming up. I mean, I'm really sorry to cut into you because I don't like doing that. But that's what it's like for me. That's what it's like when I'm watching Arsenal. I've got the game. I've had the game. I watched the first half before we came on the pod, and I've had the game on in the background. And it's just clicked now. If you watch their fourth goal again, I know it's painful to watch, but watch their fourth goal, right? It's basically exactly what Arteta wants us to do in terms of getting the ball out, playing it out, beating the press. But it's done at 100 miles an hour. It's literally 100 miles an hour. He goes to Henderson in the middle, and he plays it into space, into a space that's there. He's got runners on. And that's one of the things, that's why I think you're going to touch on it in a minute, Jack. Do we do anything in January? We need to either give the people like that who can make those runs into space, whether it's giving Martinelli a chance, whether it's Pepe giving him another chance again, or you get someone, you bring someone in who has a presence up there to create situations like that. But yeah, you watch that full goal again, and that is Arteta's, I think that's Arteta's wet dream, basically, because that's basically what he seems like we're trying to do, but we're doing it at 50 miles an hour. They did their one at 100 miles an hour, and it just destroyed us. And you see, like, Klopp and his backroom staff, they're buzzing, not because Minamino just came on the score, but the move, the way they just absolutely destroyed us. You watch that again, and that's exactly what we need to do. We used to do it. We did it in 2004, whenever, we used to do that, the guys used to do it with our eyes closed. But this guy's trying to do it, and it's just too methodical. It's too by the numbers. 1, 2, 3. Oh, you done it wrong. Do it. Start again. And that's not natural. That's not football, man. That's a different sport you're playing. That's not how you play football.
And
he's too safe, isn't he?
Yeah, he's too safe. I mean, we already know. I've already come to terms completely with the fact that what we're dealing with here is a very defensively minded coach, and we're not going to get. I've already come to terms with. It's very unlikely we're going to get an attacking style that I am actually enjoying under this manager. I'm beyond that stage. I'm at the stage where I'm hoping we get basically what a Simeone type manager is, that's just extremely efficient in the chances they do create and defensively extremely solid, because he has shown he knows how to build a defence. But he hasn't, other than the goal away at West Brom. Do you remember how mad we went about the Smith Rowe? The Saka goal away at West Brom, because that was probably the first time we did a move like you just spoke about, Mike, and we were like, that is what we need to be able to do off the cuff. No thought, do it. And that is what will go through any team. And I was looking at the error scored at Anfield, in 2003, 2004, 2005, I think it was, sorry. Those kind of just so few and far between. Like you said, it's just too structured. It's too trained. It's too coached. Our young players didn't look great on the night. Saka had probably our best moments where I felt he made the wrong decision in the final third. Obviously, again, I'm not judging the young players, but I do feel, again, this is something. I think Smith Rowe and Saka are just waiting to explode. Like, I think they are just waiting to be double figures for goals and assists. And I think we said at the start of the season, if they don't make it, I'm just looking at the coach. I'm looking at the coach, because I'm telling you, these players are not in one of the best England squads in my lifetime for no reason. They're not just in the squads. I mean, Saka is a first team player for them, and Smith Rowe, I believe, will be one for them. They are, and Smith Rowe, in fairness, has done it. But what have we scored? We've scored like 12 goals in the Premier League so far this year. I mean, it's very, very few in terms of, and we've got to. That's one thing I wanted to ask, boy. I looked back at some of the old clips of Arsenal today, from like 2007 on to like 2017, where we weren't very good, right? I mean, we were top four, but a lot of people said we weren't very good. But we always had those one players that you could rely on to elevate your team in moments where nothing was happening. You had Alexis, you had Van Persie, you had Adebayor, you had Nasri, you had Cesc, you had, and it went on Arshavin at a point. I don't think we have that player. It used to be Aubameyang, but it's not been Aubameyang for about a year since the FA Cup final. And I think that's what's going to cost us getting top six this season. I think all the teams that are trying to get top six have a player or two, Harry Kane and Son, Antonio, Ronaldo, that they can rely on when things aren't going well to just, they're going to score today. And I don't think we have that player. Not one, let alone two. I don't think we have it. You must have these same concerns, right, Neil? You have these same concerns?
Asking Mr. Positive here. I'm trying to battle it.
or we're trying to create it.
But no. I agree. No. Aubameyang clearly carried us when we won the FA Cup this season. Clearly, without a doubt. I mean, you could almost say he single-handedly won the Cup, especially in the last two games. Ever since, I don't think it was after the FA Cup. I think it's after he signed. He just went downhill, and then he had his issues with his mother and all personal things. And all right, fair enough, but he just hasn't been the same player for me. We've seen it in snippets recently, but it's just not the same player. So who do you look to? You don't really look to anyone apart from our two youngsters who you just mentioned, who are both in the England lineup, and that's it. And you can't expect that of them game in, game out. They're not going to be the type of player that's going to completely turn the game around. And you're right, Alexis used to do it. You missed your favourite player, mate. I'm shocked. Santi. You'd mentioned him.
Of course, Santi.
Jesus Christ, I'm very disappointed in you,
Santi,
Jack.
I regard as the player that
but
turned up every game in a way. I felt he was.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, the whole FA Cup final, for example, like that.
Absolutely.
Do we have that? I don't think we do. So.
No, it is a worry. But I'm not.
Sorry, go on.
I still am confident. I don't know that those 10 games. I know they may not be the way you guys would have liked to see us play, but it was still a good run when we were really up against it. We were so up against it was untrue, and we managed to get. We could potentially have been third if we beat Liverpool. I know that was a big ask, but to think about, we were bottom of the league, a -9 goal difference. No goals scored in the first 3 games. And all of a sudden, we're looking at potentially being third after the 11th game. That's quite an impressive turnaround.
It is.
And it's one game. It is one game. We're talking about a game that's probably the most difficult ground in Europe to play. We did hold it together for 40-odd minutes. We capitulated after that, fair enough. And we will learn. Hopefully, we will learn from it. But I agree that there isn't a marquee person, if you like. There isn't this standout person that you get those players that sometimes can be absolutely non-existent, and then 2 minutes of amazing, I don't know, brilliance, and it's turned it for us. So you're right, we don't have that. But is that going to cost us 6? I'm not sure. I'd like to see where we are after the next few games.
Yeah, well, that's going to be a real sort of yardstick, I think, the next few. Mike, go ahead.
I think I totally get you, but I think potentially we have 2 players that could do it, maybe 3 push. But I think potentially 2 players that could be the difference in that regards, and that's Pepe and that's Partey. If Partey was allowed to play a little bit closer to the likes of Saka, Smith Rowe, Pepe, Aubameyang, you imagine if he was playing a bit closer to them rather than being where he is, and if there was someone a bit more defensive minded, it was like, okay, get on with it. The back 4 are all young and hungry, and they all want to defend. And then you've got one of them, you've got 2 in the back there that can literally connect to you guys. That's Ben White and Ramsdale. They can connect to you with a 60-yard pass like that, bang. You haven't got to wait for it. You haven't got to wait for 10 passes. You can go to us that way. And then when that goes, Partey goes, and he's there around to pick up the pieces from whoever it might drop down to. And then if you've got Pepe, who, as inconsistent as he is, the guy has got numbers in terms of putting goals in or assists. So there's that aspect of it as well. What about maybe trying Pepe? We tried him up front against Villarreal. What about putting him in Lacazette's position, where he's in behind Lacazette, where he can get the ball and turn and run, draw fouls, or beat people, and all of a sudden he's on the back 4 making a run, and so there's options there. But I just think the manager is so set in his ways with this dot-to-dot football. Maybe let's call it that, dot-to-dot football. Maybe he's in that so set in his ways that he's not going to let that happen. And it might be someone else who's got a bit of a more attacking philosophy to do that. But I think the options are there, Jack. I think the players are there to get us to be more offensive and create more chances like that. Because again, like Neil said, that chance Partey had in the game against Liverpool, the feet he showed to cut inside Fabinho and then to curl that in, that was great feet he showed. He knew what he was doing. He knew where he shifted it. I know people are taking the piss with him that he keeps on shooting, he doesn't score or whatever, and obviously scored against at the Emirates a couple of weeks ago. But I just think the guy's he's got the ability to play that a bit closer and to cause a lot of disruption, a lot of turnovers, possible turnovers and chances, and that creates open chances from open play, not set pieces or whatever. If you don't press and you turn it over, you're creating chances from open play, and all of a sudden those figures or whatever go up rather than down again. So I think the players are there, man. I just think the manager is holding them back. And Martinelli, that was the 3rd one. He's off form at the moment, but we know what Martinelli can do. So I think the players are there, man. But
I think he's got to take a part with Martinelli. He's got to, else we are going to lose him. I tell you that for nothing. We will lose the guy, and that would be one of the most devastating losses for me, because I think he's got everything that we need in a striker, and we just haven't got it. And can I just ask you 2 a quick question, because it concerned the hell out of me in that game. All I saw was us, because of Liverpool's high intensity and their high press. Obviously, we're going to get pegged back anyway, but the amount of times we were playing it from the back, I was shitting myself every single time. Obviously, then Tavares made that mistake. It was inevitable. It was going to happen at some point. I just found we were doing that too much. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just wanted to know how you thought, but I was really worried about the way we were playing out of the back. I think we were doing it too much. I mean, again, that's where we could have broken the norm and tried something a little bit different. Just like what you said, Ben White can distribute, Ramsdale can distribute long. Why just back playing for the back against Liverpool of all teams? To me, that didn't make sense.
No,
that's all. I don't know how you felt.
No, I agree. I mean, it's about adapting to the side. You can't keep doing the same thing when they're the best pressing team in the league, aren't they? So it does. I don't think we've perfected it well enough yet. Even though we've got the players now more so to do that kind of thing, ball playing centre backs, things like ball playing goalkeeper. Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, you're right as well. It's just the good thing was that like I say, is that there were a couple of situations where we broke that press and we got out, and it was like, well, saying, if we can do that against these guys, who are the best, who never knows pound for pound, are the best pressing team in world football, then when we play against the likes of, other teams who, it shouldn't be an issue. But obviously we know football isn't that easy. The only thing I had an issue was with players like Ben White, who, his just passing was off, his pass selection was off. But yeah, it was almost like, Neil, that Arteta was trying to say, okay, look, we want to play this way and we want to pull it off because I want everyone to see I've coached you to do this. I've coached this. We've done this because of me, not because of you. Do
you think it's got an ego issue?
I still think so. I still think he has. He plays. He says all the right things and everything like that. And obviously they talk about the renovations and how he wanted to change the dressing room and London Colney, and he's got a poster of Arsene Wenger at London Colney, which is great. But there's times where I think he's probably sitting in the office at London Colney. He's probably thinking, maybe we should take that Invincibles picture down. That's how I think he looks at it sometimes. He just wants it to be like let's forget about that and let's think about this future thing. I remember there was a manager that went into Forest once and said that, take down all the pictures of Brian Clough and the European Cup, and if we don't want that up anymore, and you're like, what are you talking about? And that actually happened. So I can understand that he wants to have a connection with Arsenal and with Arsene Wenger and everything, but I think there's almost too much of it, there's too much fingerprints on it. I want everyone in the world to see, because we weren't playing at the back like that for over the last 10 games that we've won. Not to that extent, not in the way that Ben White and Gabriel were on the byline. We played certainly a little bit like that against Watford, but in all the other games that I've seen, I haven't seen the Leicester game, so they might have done it in the first half there, but I'm not seeing us play like that again. The first time we did it was when we won the FA Cup, when we did it against City and Chelsea in the run. But I've not seen us go back that way, where those two were right on the byline waiting for the ball to come back again. It literally was like, okay, look, we're going to do it this way, and if it comes off, who looks great? Who looks great if it comes off? That's.
No, you could.
I still have a thing about him. I still have a thing about Arteta. I want him to do well. That doesn't mean I don't want him to do well. I want him to do well because that means that Arsenal are winning trophies and successful.
Yeah.
But I still think there's an element of it that it's me. This is what anything that comes good. I want them to know that I coached you to play that way. That goal came from me. Not by you thinking off the cuff and that dot-to-dot football came down to me. Is down to me. Yeah. So sorry, I keep calling it that.
CV builder for him, maybe. But you make a good point on Pepe though, because he is the one on paper, other than your Aubameyang, to have proven sort of stats in that area with Lille, and then with us to a certain degree, despite the fact he's been in and out of the team. The problem there is, I think what we're dealing with is a coach that just does not like Pepe, and he's massively, probably more out of favour than he's ever been. And let's get to the Newcastle game before we do the transfer window. What changes, Neil? Because it's awkward now. You've got two youngsters in Lokonga and Tavares who could easily be blamed. You could see it. Being blamed for the defeat, which I think would be wrong. Again, I'd look far closer to the senior players, the captain, your £50 million central midfielder. I'm not saying drop them, but maybe make an example of one of them. I wouldn't mind making an example of an Aubameyang at a point like this, and saying, well, you're not showing us enough, to be honest. And in that it goes hiding. You've got to show for us. It's going to be hard. You've got to show for us. What changes would you make, Neil? Would you change this 4-4-2 setup? We have to win against Newcastle. It's a massive game. If we win against Newcastle, we forget about this game. We're on the cusp of the top four again. Despite all the data in my head, I will be very, very happy, at least for 3 days before we go to Old Trafford and bottle it like a good one.
Oh my God, Shaq.
You'll never almost change. There, wouldn't I?
I think if we did the quad unbeaten, you still would be pessimistic, I think.
No, I was very positive in the Invincible days. I've got record of it. I was sure? Very positive.
I don't have any proof of that.
They're very, very. It was John that was the negative one. I remember being 2-1 down at home to Liverpool, and I said, we'll win this, don't you worry about it.
He was probably the only Arsenal fan that was down when we done the Invincibles.
He was very negative. He forgets about that. He was very negative. I said, we've never lost a game. We haven't lost a game. I was like, what are you talking about? We're fantastic. But what do you think? I think there will be changes. The most obvious one would be Tierney coming in, but what does that do for a Tavares? What does that say to him?
I know. I agree with you. I would put Tierney in. I think I would, because we just have to win this game. And it's not a condemnation of Tavares. I think he's been great, actually. I think he's done a really good job. It's one of the few positions where we're quite confident of the second player, whichever way we work it. But what does that do? It's almost like, shit, I've had one off day and I'm already dropped. What does that do for someone's mentality at that age? I don't know. Maybe he's big enough and he understands that. We can deal with it. We hopefully he can. If that's the case, we don't know if he's going to take Tierney on in his place. We don't know yet, but I think he probably will. Odds are that he will. He might change up the midfield because of what happened, but does he do it to both of them? That's like, what does that do to the whole squad? Two people that have got the how can you say, the negative press, and both of them get dropped. I don't think that's a good idea. I just don't know. You got to remember, it's a different dynamic. We are at home. It's a completely different football game, isn't it? It's and we've been doing okay up until the Liverpool game. So I don't know whether we should change it too much. To be fair, we don't need to bring Rob Holding on, because I don't think they've got any players that need to have their heads kicked in to stop them, like maybe Mane or Costa, etc. when he played for Chelsea. But I think maybe one of those two might be gone. And I would like to see Aubameyang dropped, like you mentioned it. Maybe possibly bring in, I don't know, would I dare say, maybe keep Pepe on the bench and give him a bit of time? I don't know if that's the answer.
Bring your boy in,
Martinelli. Yeah, well, he's not going to do it.
Well, the problem there, Neil, is we are going to need Martinelli come January. He's going to be
this is the time. So this is the time.
Well, especially when you've got 3 games in a week.
We're playing 8 games in December. Think about it, 8.
And we're not used to that. This is not a team that's used to playing in Europe.
Exactly. But we haven't been in Europe. So now that's going to hit us like a ton of bricks. So we've got 8 games in Europe. He has to bring on Martinelli, or even Balogun, dare I say it. But it's got to be one of the two to change it up. But I can still see him playing Lacazette in the middle, maybe, if he does drop Aubameyang, and then bring in on, I don't know, maybe he might play Pepe, he might put Saka on the left. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. But I think there will be 2 or 3 changes. 100%. I can't see anything apart from Tierney maybe coming in. The defence will stay the same. 100%. I mean, they're not doing much wrong, to be fair. All right, Ben White had a bit of an off game, but to be honest, again, I'm going to say it's Liverpool away, and it's a tough game for anyone, and they are learning the ropes. They are climbing the ladder a little bit as well. So I don't want to be too hard on them.
No, so, I don't want to be too harsh on the players.
Do you want a prediction?
Let me just go to Mike real quick. Mike, what's your thoughts on the lineup? Would you bring Odegaard back in? Would you do something different to what Neil said?
Yeah, I think I think Tavares, hopefully, they will obviously review the game and review the film of the game, and I think he'll look at it that apart from goal, obviously, and the 10, 15 minutes afterwards, where he went to pieces, the guy had a decent game. He done really well up against Salah in the first half. And one thing which I think bodes well for his character, he didn't hide. The guy didn't hide. He was always showing for the ball still. He was still trying to make things happen. It's so much that he took away probably a good chance for Aubameyang where a cross came in and he jumped and went for the same ball as Aubameyang, and Aubameyang would have had a free header at goal. And so he was just still trying to do everything to try and make amends of it. I think as well, he knows that when he come to the club, he knew he was probably understudy to Tierney, and he probably would have had maybe a season and a bit before he really would break through. So he probably would know that he's put a lot of good credit in the bank in terms of, his progression. So when he comes out, which I'm sure he will, and Tierney will come in, he'll be disappointed that he had a really big part to play in the second goal, which killed the game. I think other than that, I don't think he'll have it. That he'll be just more disappointed that I'm being dropped because I've he knows where he's standing is in the pecking order, and he knows Tierney is the main man. But he's put a lot of credit in there to know that the players can rely on him, and the fans can be safe that if he comes back into the side, that he's performed so well. And I think the same with Lokonga as well. He's been in and out of the team a little bit as well, and he played well apart from that 5 minutes. So he got subbed straight after his second goal as well, straight away. So I think these two, they've got a lot of potential, and they knew coming in, they haven't got the ego of Guendouzi, for example, who came in out of nowhere, played League Two in France. No one knew who he was. He plays a couple of games and he's a big man. He's on Holloway Road shouting up, and shouting at cars and everything, because we beat Tottenham. Those two kids won't be knocking on the door saying, "Well, I'm not in the team." They know they've got the right mentality. So I think they'll be fine. When they do come back in, which will never be the case because of injuries or whatever, they'll continue and would have taken the medicine in terms of what happened at Anfield, and will kick on. But I think they'll be fine, knowing that they have to take a step out and you have to let maybe more experience come in, because obviously, like I said, the Newcastle game is massive. We have to win that game. No dropping points or whatever. We have to win that game. And I dare say, quite convincingly. I think the way Eddie Howe plays, a bit more open, and on the front foot. So I think there could be a few chances in that game, and I think we need to make sure we're clinical and put them away. But yeah, I think they'll be fine. I think those two will be fine.
Yeah, I'd actually start both of them against Newcastle. Again, mainly for the reason that we've got 3 games in a week, Man U and then Everton. The 2 after that are both away. So if you're going to start Tierney after the Anfield situation, you probably look to that Man U game to start in Tierney. And I think it would be nice to just say, well, you go, Tavares, for his confidence, not just drop him and it immediately looks like you've dropped him because of his mistake kind of thing. So I'd definitely start Tavares. Lokonga, if you bring Niles in or whatever, and then I'd bring Odegaard in, and probably, I personally would drop Aubameyang, but it'll obviously be Lacazette that he drops because they kind of fill the same role. But I do think, I think it's time to bring Odegaard in. And, this 4-4-2's worked nicely, but you can not a lot of top sides play 4-4-2 for the longevity, so there's obviously a need in that. And what you notice from the bench, you don't really have that change up in terms of your strike force when you've got both of them on the pitch, have you? Like your goal getters, your Aubameyang. If you're starting both of them, you then go down to levels that Arteta just doesn't seem to trust, in Martinelli's and Balogun. So then it throws it a little bit, and he just doesn't bring anyone on, or doesn't bring them on until too late in the game. Quick thing on the transfer window. I know Neil doesn't love talking about it. Mike, what do you think on? Basically, I want to know, where would you go for in the transfer window? I think probably have to say that, African nations coming up, Pepe, Aubameyang, El Neni, someone else go into that. So, but the players go into it. Would that play into your mind with it? And do you think is there any possibility of us doing anything in January? Right?
I actually think there is. I think there is possibly something in the pipeline. I think we'll try. We'll definitely try. Whether we put it off or not is obviously another case. But I think we'll definitely try to get someone in, someone quite, spend a bit of money. And if that doesn't happen, then 100% it's going to happen in the summer, because obviously by then, like I said, we've got a year left or whatever his situation is. It's people are saying it looks like he's not going to, or the club don't want to extend it. Eddie Nketiah could talk to whoever he wants to. It doesn't look like he's staying either. So we're in a bit of a predicament in terms of the midfield needing to be addressed still, and the forward line needs to be addressed still. I think we need to get 2 forwards. One who plays in Lacazette's role, who's a bit more mobile, and someone who plays as the focal point. So I think one of them, if we can get one of them in January, that will just should make it a little bit more straightforward to know what we need to do in the summer. But I think there might be an opportunity, a choice, because of the African nations, we're going to be without a good chunk of players for a month a bit, and that's huge. That is pretty huge. I know there's FA Cup in between, one of those weekends or whatever, and I know I don't know if they've got the winter break this time round. I don't know if that's in play, because they had it. They didn't have it last year, I think, because of COVID. I think they had it the year before, where only half of the Premier League played one Saturday, and then the other half played the following. So it was like everyone had a week off, but it was staggered. I think you're on mute, Jack. But
I don't recall that. Yeah.
So I don't know if that's going to be the case this year. So again, that's another week without we won't necessarily have to worry about, because in the FA Cup, obviously, if we get someone half, like we get in the League Cup, if we get a Sunderland or whatever, then you can maybe go with playing a weaker lineup. But I personally think we will try and definitely do something, and then we'll table a bid, and whether it gets accepted, if it's the Fiorentina. Doing Vlahovic, I think if it's in, depending on where they are in the league, I think they're doing okay. They're not going to really want to let him go. So there's all of those factors to take into account as well. But as Neil said, people like Martinelli, you've got to be giving them more minutes now, because it's December next week, and before you know it, that's it. They're gone.
Why couldn't you give them 20 minutes at Anfield? Why couldn't you?
Ridiculous.
Again, we haven't touched it, but the substitutions, I just couldn't understand the timing of them was probably the first time he's done substitution when you think, oh, right, that's right time to do it. Personnel that he used was, he should have put Tierney on for Tavares, I would have done, and he should have definitely have put Martinelli on once it was like 3-0, to give him half an hour. I couldn't understand, why he brought the players on that he brought on. To do sort of, it just didn't make any sense. I think he's head of gone Arteta as well by that point. But I don't know.
I don't think he knows what he's doing with substitutions. We've said it for 2 years. I don't really think he has a plan when it comes to substitutions. He goes all the way back to, when we had the sending off at Chelsea, and it took him about 10 minutes to figure out who he was going to bring on and bring off. I don't think we've really progressed from that stage. I don't really see, massive stuff happening with him from substitutions, which the goal is to sort of change the game and make a difference. And I don't see that a lot from him. I think his substitutions are often pretty poor, but I like that though. Mike thinks we could get someone in. I find it hard to believe we're going to get someone in without getting someone out. So Neil, who could we sell? I still think there's a chance Niles go. There could be a chance you do a deal with Lacazette. Lots of people look at Ozil. We went 6 months before his contract was up. There's a possibility there. Slight possibility, Chambers, Leno, but then you'd have to replace Leno, so maybe less so. But these players might want to move on, knowing that they're not really going to see any game time. Chambers isn't going to see any game time, I think, very unlikely. And Leno, unless there's an injury, won't, and he'll be eager to be picking up the cones for Germany in Qatar. So what do you think?
No, I think definitely outs before ins, because I think we're so overloaded. We've said it so many times before. So I think, why can't we get rid of Kolasinac? Jesus, he's still there, isn't he?
Can't believe it.
But I don't think Leno. That we can't lose Leno now. All right, he's not really featuring, but he is playing our cup games at the moment, and they're doing all right, I suppose. And I think he will feature unless we get to the final. Then maybe he'll play Ramsdale, as we mentioned, didn't we? I think in the previous podcast. But players like Kolasinac, maybe, and Nani's, I think he'll be there. Niles, maybe. We'll see. Let's see if he picks Niles on the weekend, because that'll be interesting.
But I think that's doing us a favour in terms of how he's using Niles, because I don't think there's any side really that would have taken Niles on as a central midfielder after being at West Brom. But he's actually looked quite good with us in central midfield. He's even surprised me.
Exactly.
So now I could see an Everton or a Leicester or Southampton coming in for him.
Well, we got history with Everton. We got rid of Rugby for 35 or whatever it was. So, we could do it again.
Yeah, there you go.
Too bad.
So I saw an Everton account saying that this is the worst signing our football club has ever made in the history of its football club, and I was cracking up laughing at it, because I was slightly worried at the time. But he's put on tons of weight, Iwobi too. He's a big boy now, isn't he? He's a big old boy.
He was quite big anyway.
Yeah,
one position you guys haven't mentioned, and I know I'm crazy saying it,
the
because
manager.
he's the Terminator. Well, all right, forget that. But the Terminator, my man Tommy, because God forbid if something happens to him, who do we play in that position? We're back to square one again, where we was weak on that side. So surely we need someone like we've got on the other side with Tavares. We
got to get rid of Chambers or Cedric to bring someone in.
Yeah,
I presume.
I agree. So
probably will be Tavares go over that side. To be honest, I think.
Yeah, because he can play that side
before, so I wouldn't be too. I mean, obviously, you don't want him to get injured, but if he did, then I think that will be an option, and then that slots Tierney straight back in. Obviously, if he was still had that position.
Yeah,
but,
I think that's a good call. But then again, then weak on the other side again. We haven't got the two players on, because at the moment we've got that luxury, I guess. So I don't know. Eventually, I think we should look at the right back position again, just to give a challenge to Tommy.
Maybe in the summer. Has he ever signed anyone under? Because I want to sign Renato Sanchez. I wanted to sign him in the summer when he was going to go to Wolves and the medical collapsed or whatever. I think he's a terrific player and he's 23, fits our mould in terms of his age and his experience. He's an experienced 23-year-old. Very experienced.
Yeah.
But has he ever signed anyone under 6 foot? I don't think he's ever signed anyone under 6 foot. He has got like a height fetish. I mean, Neil, you're lucky you're even allowed in the stadium, son.
The only person, I think he has, Jack, and I don't think you want me to remind you who that person was, because also he was the only attack-minded player that he's bought as well. And that
Willian, of course.
Yes.
Oh,
so
Christ.
let's not take the piss too much, because he's not got really good form in that regard.
Yeah.
But just to change track a bit, guys, I shouldn't be telling you this, but I'm actually watching it. They put the full game of Arsenal. We played Leicester on the opening game of the season, and we won 4-3, and Lacazette scored after like a minute. And then obviously Arsenal was in charge, and I've just got in the background here, and just watching the way we go forwards and we move forward, it's just like I tell you, it's like watching a different sport, man. And this was the time where we were struggling. We were struggling to open teams up or win games, whatever.
Man, it's a genius.
The way that we're playing, the way that the players are just being allowed to like make it up. We say that Pepe's just got pure vibes or whatever. And
have you watched the Invincibles film? Yeah. Have you watched it?
Not yet. I need to watch that. Not yet, mate.
Because I've only watched the first 20 or so minutes, but right from the start, you hear him saying, or other players or legends talking about him, saying that he just let us get on with it. He managed and he coached, but he let us express ourselves, and that is the biggest difference, because even in his waning years, we were still playing attractive football. I know everyone was taking the piss out of us, and they were having a go at Wenger, and all those idiotic fans of ours were doing the same, but we still played pretty decent football. Well, attacking-wise, anyway.
We did. We really did. And
always.
He always said that football was to entertain the people, and I knew that. But when he left, I was very for a different style. I was fine with it. After two managers that have fallen for my liking into a very I can't do it anymore. I cannot do it anymore. That's why me and Mike talk offline about Ten Hag at Ajax and these types of coaches. Before anything, like just trophies or anything, I want to enjoy watching my team every week. There is such a huge, and I listen to other pods and they're like, I can deal with anything if we get the result. I'm not sure if I can. I mean, we'd have to be winning titles for me to be able to deal with this kind of football. If we're winning titles, of course, I'm going to be there. Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. Like Mourinho's fans were in his peak. But beyond that, give me something I can enjoy. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're watching us 90. It's the only time I turn on the TV all week. I want to enjoy. I don't want to be rather doing something else for 20 minutes and come back to the game. I think it's a huge thing. I think that's where we've really got to think about it when, if push comes to shove and something changes.
It's hard to get out of that mindset, Jack, because you had it for literally 22 years.
Of course. So I didn't come from the George Graham era. I came to the tail end of that.
Exactly. And you've had that. That's pretty much all you've known. And
yes, and I appreciate that.
So it's been almost like it's been indoctrinated into you. So, you can't blame you for thinking that way. And you're right. End of the day, what do we want? Us lot anyway in this pod, we're not necessarily trophy hunters. Of course, it's lovely to win things, but we want good performances, but we also want a bit of entertainment and attractive football as well, because that's what Arsenal were renowned for so many years.
Yeah.
And I think that it's hard to then adjust and go to this now safety mechanism. And while I understand he's rebuilding from the back and he's doing all of that, but he's got to experiment, especially when in this situation, a classic example, we're 2-0 down, we've got nothing to lose. He doesn't change a thing. And he's got the players, as Michael alluded to, Pepe's, Martinelli's, you've got them to come on. Odegaard even. All right, you brought Odegaard on, but you know what I mean. It's got to.
And that's the thing. That's where the start. Because from my perspective, the game was set for us to try to hold it 0-0 for as long as possible. The problem is Liverpool score against everybody. So when it goes to 1-0, which it's very likely to do, they must have sat there gone, they could score one here. What are we going to do then? I don't see the plan after that. I don't see what the plan is. It looks great when we're just basically going, hold them, just let them jab us like a boxer. What's the plan after you go 1-0 down, though? Where's that change? And that's the problem I have with performance. I know this run's been terrific, but when you look at it, some of the performances are still a little bit concerning. After 30 minutes against Leicester, it was a backs-to-the-wall performance. Should we be looking at our goalkeeper this often? He is fantastic going, what a world-class performance that was again from Aaron's 23-year-old Ramsdale.
He shouldn't be winning man of the match when you lose 4-0, Jack.
No.
It's ridiculous.
He did this for Bournemouth and Sheffield United. He won man of the match and player of the season.
True.
He's going to win our player of the season. Why? Because we allow as many shots as they do. That shouldn't be the case at a big club.
Just an update on the Leicester game, after Leicester game, guys. 75 minutes gone, and we've had 18 attempts on goal. 75 minutes gone, we've had 18 attempts at goal.
So
we used to average 20.
What's the average at the moment? 13 in it?
We've had 19 all season. I'll bet you that's what it is. No, that's a joke. But that's probably where we're
I'm serious, man. The football is like, I'm just like watching a different sport, mate. It really is. It's just like, and they're just trying to work it, like Neil said, they're trying to work it out themselves. They're not, it's just mad how the philosophy has just completely done completely, 180.
No one's asking him to look at someone else and copy his style. No one is asking that, but have a little bit of something about you where you kind of, let me look out the box just for a little bit. If I know something's not working, let me change it just a little bit, because to be honest, it might work. It might not work. All right, fine. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But what have we got to lose? We're going to lose the game 4-0 anyway. I mean, we're not going to lose much else, are we? So, that kind of is a constraint that he's imposing on himself, because as you said earlier, Michael, or was it you, Jack? He wants to be known to be, well, I did that. Yeah, that is a bit of a concern. If that is the case, I mean, I don't know for sure, but it does kind of make sense.
In saying that, and let's draw a line on it, we are on a great run bar the Liverpool game. Yeah. And if we win against Newcastle, for the time being at least, it's looking really positive. Neil, what's your prediction for Newcastle first scorer? I heard Michael
allude to that. I think it might be quite convincing. I'm actually going to be the bring a little bit of a barrier to that, and I think we will win, but it won't be convincing. I think it'll be about 2-0. I'd say. I think I'd like to go back to the clean sheet scenario. 2-0, and this is just a miracle, right? Martinelli will play and he'll score.
Wow, I like that. Martinelli's your first scorer.
Yeah, man.
Oh,
got to play.
Okay.
It's not going to happen. I'm just dreaming.
Mike, what about you?
I'm going to back myself. I'd say we'll win 4-1. I can see. I think if Callum Wilson's playing, he's scored, nobody gets a goal against us or something like that. But
Michael, I feel like this is happening now. Stop messing with my mind, man. Stop messing this game that it's like we've gone back in time. You've got the TARDIS or something next to you. You've been the man that was it, the milk train? What's that?
Milk train man, yeah.
You've been bloody Batman. Now you're flipping Doctor Who. What's going on with you today, man? Tell us your secret.
Sure. I say 4-1, and I'll say Aubameyang to score first.
He's gonna play. Yeah, I'll go 4-1 Aubameyang, 2-0 Martinelli. I will go 3-1 Arsenal, and I'll go Smith Rowe. I'll go Smith Rowe because I think he'll definitely start. Yeah, Smith Rowe. I think he'll start. So let's see.
Whatever happens, you have to win. We have to win.
We have to win that absolutely. And we've been bit positive, lots of negative, a bit of the transfer window, and I've kept you boys too long. Thank you for joining us, Mike, Neil, on the sit down. I love that name. Fantastic. I would use it every week without fail. FOURgone Conclusion is the name of the podcast. FOURgone Conclusion. Go get the guitar. But the sit down is the graphic for every post game from now on, thanks to Mike and our favourite Sopranos TV show that we all love.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I loved it. Fantastic. Absolutely. Much better than the breakdown and the post.
Watch the Invincibles.
Just on that,
I'm in tears.
If you find a way of watching it overseas, because I can't get it online overseas. I don't know if the DVDs work either. So if you happen to find, I think it's on Amazon Prime or something over there.
Yeah.
But I'm not seeing it on my end. I've looked and Googled it and everything. So if you find out anything that's like Universal, because that sounds like a good 90 minutes of my day to take up. I'll probably watch it during one of the Arsenal games, to be honest.
From the first second you're just hooked, you're like, oh my God. Yeah. And you start tearing up. I mean, I did. Maybe I'm just the worst.
Well, we were there, weren't we? We experienced it all, didn't we?
I've just bought it now on Sky Store. Sorry,
there you go. Just now.
Just bought it. Yeah, just now.
I had to buy it. I bought it on Apple TV actually. Apple. You got an Apple, haven't you? Apple phone.
Yeah.
You can get it from Apple. It should be available.
I'll do a bit of research into it tonight, see if I can grab it.
Yeah.
Even if it's on the DVD and chuck it on. But boys, thank you so much. I know it's late over there. Sorry, I took too much time. Thank you so much, boys. We will chat again after the Newcastle win. Come on, boys, up the Arsenal.
Come on.